Hello, and welcome to today's virtual happy hour tour. I am Brenda Holt with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to families, to more than 100 million Americans 50 plus and their families, regarding health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulation publications, the AARP Magazine and the AARP Bulletin. During the months of November and December, AARP will focus to help you navigate the complicated healthcare system. Caregivers are frequently frustrated by their healthcare systems, from Medicare, insurance, and care coordination to inadequate healthcare staffing and medication management. We know helping your loved ones navigate their medical needs is hard. AARP is your wise friend, and we're here to provide support and guidance. We can also help assist with resources, expert content, and tools. Visit us at aarp.org/caregiving for more information. Thank you again, and I'll turn it over to Marshall.
Folks, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. I am so happy that you can join us this evening because we're going to have a lot of fun. I want to welcome all of you, regardless of how you're listening or watching. Thank you so much for being here. And my name is Marshall Shore. And as we get ready for November the 2nd, so today, back in 1919, early in the morning, started off a race from El Paso to Phoenix. And you know, that over 500-mile trek, it's like in that time frame, one driver was shot. There were a couple accidents, but they did wind up at the Arizona State Fairgrounds back in 1919. The purse for the winner was over $10,000, so it was quite a race. There were 44 cars entered. Not all of them did finish. Now, it is also National Deviled Egg Day. You know, it is just a hard-boiled egg cut down the middle. They throw in some stuff. You can choose bacon, mustard, mayonnaise, pickles, jalapenos, whatever you want to make a really tasty treat for all those potlucks that are now, the weather is now nice and decent. Hopefully we'll be going to more of those. It is also International Stout Day. You know, stout was developed in the 1700s out of porters, and it's become a favorite for people to fill their glass with. Now, it is also Cookie Monster Day. C is indeed for cookie. Now, it's his birthday, and so he actually was first created for a food commercial back in 1966, and he appeared on the very first Sesame Street back in 1969. And then it is All Souls Day, where folks around the planet are going to church, lighting candles, offering prayers, and remembering loved ones. So what can you expect from tonight's show? Well, you know, we've got a little bit of music. We've got a little bit of trivia. We have Little Arizona coming up. And of course, there is indeed a beverage and a super special guest. But more on that in just a moment. So I said my name is Marshall. I'm also called the Hip Historian. And, you know, that means I get to play with Arizona history. And there's a lot going on. Why, this weekend, there is a juried show for the Artist Museum, or the Museum of Arizona Artists. They're doing a show just near the old Carnegie Library, which may pop up in a little bit as we're chatting. As well as then also tomorrow from 11 to 7 is the Grand Avenue Festival. I think it's the 14th festival they've been doing to kind of highlight Grand Avenue and all that's going on out there. And then next week, we have Arizona Scottsdale Center for the Arts is doing a Lloyd Kiva new movie. So, I'm sorry, actually, that's December 7th. Whoops. December 7th. So that's going to be a fun night of movies as well. And I think there's other things going on with that as well. So be sure to check that out. And also coming up, November 10th through the 12th is going to be Tucson Modernism. If you've never been down there, it's a lot of fun. Check out their schedule and see what's going on. Also on November 18th, it is Pride for Chandler, and I'm going to be emceeing the event from 3 to 8. So come check us out. Now I see some of you already have found the chat. Thank you so much for being here. And, if you have something you want to shout out that you don't want to put in the chat, maybe you've got a great idea for a guest. Maybe you've got a question. I love to hear from you all. So you can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, email, or even my website. We also have coming up early January, the Orpheum's 95th anniversary. That's going to be a lot of fun with our Educational Burlesque show called Arizona Unzipped. Oh, and what's that doing there? Oh, I guess I've moved things around. Well, there you go. So we have a delightful cocktail this evening. So it is Manhattan 2012. So you've got Arizona Copper whiskey, as well as a little bit of aromatics and sweet vermouth for quite a tasty cocktail. And then we have Little Arizona. So Little Arizona is a chance where we get to talk about a little town. And so tonight we're going to talk about Wilcox, which was founded in 1880, was originally called Mali, was later renamed to Wilcox for a general. And it really existed because it was kind of halfway between El Paso and Phoenix. So the train could stop there, take a break. Now it went on to become the founder, where basically the birthplace of Rex Allen, where you can go visit his museum. One of the first kind of cowboys in the movies. And speaking of movies, there have been a couple of movies. There was a local kind of production done called Lonesome Wilcox, talking about Rex Allen's radio station that he started in the late 50s that is still going strong down there. There is also Red Rock West, which was kind of a neo-noir film with parts of it filmed in Wilcox. Now, when you're down there, also be sure to check out, there is a lot of wine down there, so go down and have yourself a beverage down there, as well as there are amazing places like the Chiricahuas, which are kind of like the wonderland of rocks, just spectacular, and rock formations you won't see any other place. And very close by is also Cochise's stronghold, the canyon that once indeed was Cochise's stronghold, and was a refuge against enemies for him and his band of followers. All right. Well, now is a time where we get to bring on another voice other than just mine. So, hello.
Hi, Marshall.
How are you?
Oh, really well. Looking forward to seeing if people know that trivia.
Indeed.
Indeed.
So now when we do trivia here, we do a little differently than bar trivia because, when you're doing it in a bar, all they care about is the answer, and then they're on to the next thing. And, we actually spend time and actually talk about the answers. And that's where all the fun comes in. Now, you can keep track of trivia in the chat session. You can keep track of it in a notebook, whatever floats your boat. You can do just that because you know what? You're the only one grading it. So we're not going to look over your shoulder. All right. So our first trivia is, what was the original name of McAlpine's? A, Phoenix Rexall Pharmacy. B, the Arizona Apothecary. C, Birch's 7th Street Pharmacy. Or D, Sun Drugs. So what was the original name of McAlpine's?
And the answer is?
Well, we're actually going to do that in a little bit. So we're going to run through them all and then come back. And so that's what they're going to write down, is what do they think the answer is? All right. Who was the first governor of Arizona? For question 2. Was it A, Richard C. McCormick? B, George Wiley Paul Hunt? C, Joseph Henry Kibbe? Or D, Frederick Augustus Treadle?
And I'll give you a little hint. It really should say the first elected governor.
See, sometimes we get into some trick questions here.
Yeah.
So this could be one of those.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not. All right. What is the oldest commercial building in Phoenix? Would that be A, the Lures Building, B, the Fry Building, C, Phoenix Seed and Weed Warehouse, or D, Aravisu's El Fresno Grocery Store? All right, moving on to question 4. What Secretary of State refused to certify the results for the governor in the 1916 election? All right, okay, well, I guess we're going to keep going on. All right, so was it A, Sidney P. Osborne, B, George W.P. Hunt, C, Mitt Sims, or D, John C. McCallahan? All right, so which of those folks was Secretary of State and refused to certify the results for the 1916 election? All right, question 5. How many terms did Governor Hunt serve? Was it A, 2, B, 4, C, 5, or D, 7? How many terms did Governor Hunt serve? All right. Oh, how many people are buried in Hunt's tomb? Well, those numbers look familiar. A2, B4, C5, or D7? How many folks do you think are buried in Hunt's tomb? All right, question 7. What was the nickname for Hunt? Was it A, Four Eyes, B, Old Walrus, C, Old Goat, or D, Blue Eyes? What was nickname for Governor Hunt? All right, question 8. Del Webb built Hunt's tomb, but where is it located? A, Quartzsite, B, Papago Park, C, Poston Butte, or D, Tovray Castle? Where do you think Hunt's tomb is located? All right, question 9. Who did Thomas Campbell lose to in the 1922 election? Was it A, John C. Phillips, B, George W.P. Hunt, C, Benjamin Baker Moore, or D, Sidney P. Osborne? All right, coming up to our last question. What was the first American banned book? A, Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, B, The New English Canon, C, Ulysses, or D, Lady Chatterley's Lover? Which one of those do you think was the first American banned book? All right. So as you are locking in all your final answers, we are going to take an Arizona music break. And instead of a musician, we're going to talk about a place that doesn't exist anymore. So at the Carnegie Library, which is 1908, just behind it in 1920, they opened up an amazing bandstand. That, you know, when you look at the 1920, the opening of it, most of the article talks about how good the sound is, which I thought was kind of interesting. And so there were lots of concerts, there were lots of presentations. hundreds of people. It was said to have had a capacity of about 6,000 people in that library park, which is now all just green space, not nearly as many trees as there were at one point. And you can see where it was placed there, Washington being the north side of the library. So basically where the parking lot is now. All right. Donna, did I miss any major points on that?
No, but we previously talked about it. They claimed the sound is that you could hear a pin drop on the stage. And Mr. Phoebe, who was the architect, his designs were treasured around the country, and there still are a couple of examples of this band shell that exist.
But sadly, not ours.
Not ours. Nope.
All right. So now who's ready for some answers? All right. So what was the original name of McAlpine's?
It really was Birch's 7th Street Pharmacy.
Wow.
And he also had one on Roosevelt and about 3rd Street.
Okay. So he was a chain.
Well, yeah, but this one didn't last too long. I mean, part of it's because it opened in February of 1929. I don't know, something happened in the fall. Anyway, that I think caused him financial difficulties. And so he eventually sold it out. So there were at least 2 other small pharmacies that occupied that before Fred McAlpine purchased it in 1938.
And and I just ordered a pie from McAlpine's.
Yes.
And so and that's part of the effort. Ariana just says, I wish they would reopen. It's like, that's part of why I bought a pie from them, to help them try and do just that.
Right.
All right. So who was the first governor of Arizona?
Well, in this case, I was going for the elected governor. I failed to put that little because we were a territory and the other people you mentioned were territorial governors. So our own George W. Paul Hunt was the first governor. He had been the president of the Constitution Convention for Arizona, and he had also served in the territorial legislature. He was quite well known.
Indeed. What is the oldest commercial building in Phoenix?
Well, that's the Fry Building, and that's where Marley's is. And one thing that I always like to say is that when you go there, especially on the Washington side, you'll see these at the edges. They're metal, they're iron pieces that are set into that, which most people don't know or really realize. So it is a brick building, but then it has these iron pillars. So it's kind of interesting.
So yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great that building is still around.
Yes, it is quite nice.
And I keep trying to get into the basement, but
Well, you have things about basements. I mean, there's some cool basements. I'm gonna hang up on this basement. I haven't figured out. I have a new phone. I haven't figured out how to mute it. Well, maybe I could just undo. I can just unhang. Yeah, whatever.
All right. Question 4. What Secretary of State refused to certify the results for governor in the 1916 election?
This is one of the most fascinating pieces of our Arizona history. I don't think there is any other state that can top this. In the 1916 election, which Governor Hunt was running for re-election, Thomas Campbell, who was a Republican candidate, won, or so he thought, although Hunt's people thought he won. And everybody else, the the Secretary of State and the Attorney General, those people were all Democrats. So here you've got this Republican being elected. And this started the most major fight, court battles for, let's see if that's November, for almost 14 months. Hunt refused to leave the Capitol. He had himself sworn in January 1st. Campbell had himself sworn in outside the Capitol building because he couldn't get in, and there were armed guards to prevent him from coming in. And part of the fact that Osborne didn't certify him, he never got paid for the whole year that he served as governor. I'm not sure whether they paid Hunt, but they kind of went on and on and on. And not until December 23rd, 1917, did the courts finally declare Hunt as the winner. And we were down to, 100 and some odd votes.
Wow.
No machines counting. It was hand countings and recounting. And if you were to read those articles, you would think this is what you might have heard, let's just say, even in our 2022 election here. It's interesting.
Indeed. Yeah. So it's amazing how the past kind of keeps resurfacing.
Yes, it does.
All right. So how many terms did Governor Hunt serve?
Well, 7. And what most people may not realize is in the Constitution, when it was originally written, elected offices served 2 years. It was a 2-year term. And it was indefinite. There were no term limits. Now, the switch, believe it or not, the switch to 4 years and 2 terms did not come about until 1968.
Wow.
So, yeah, and his were not consecutive either.
Of course not.
Of course not. He did a few other things.
All right. Okay. So then the next question is, how many people are buried in Hunt's tomb?
Coincidentally, 7. And so he built this originally for his wife, who died before he did. And this was to kind of honor her. So he and his wife, his daughter and her husband, and then his wife's sister and her family. They're all squeezed. No, they're not all squeezed into there. But the other thing about this is, we call it Papago Park. He did some of the most interesting shenanigans, but this was federal land. And he persuaded, I believe it was Carl Hayden, to get this passed through Congress, that he could build it here. So it's not on federal land. Because when we originally had the Papago National Monument, that was federal land. And then when that was canceled and the lands were kind of split between Scottsdale, Phoenix, and Tempe, you're going to go into the zoo. So instead of going right doing the parking lot, you go left and up the hill and you'll see the tomb.
Indeed you will. And there's many other pyramids across Arizona.
Well, yes. And only 2 others are actually tombs. Tovary wanted to be buried on his property, but the county said, no way.
Okay.
If he's going to be buried, I don't think he was going to be cremated. He had to be buried in a proper cemetery.
Okay. All right. And, all right. So question 7, what was the nickname for Hunt?
The old walrus. I mean, look at that mustache. I mean, it's great.
Indeed, it is.
And you
Quite
want to talk about the
artistic.
drink?
So with this, so because it's Arizona Commerce whiskey, their tasting room is called the Old Walrus. And so this drink will actually wind up being on the Renaissance, which is the old Adams Hotel. And we actually chose this cocktail because it was one of the Old Walrus's favorite things to drink
But
at the Adams.
for your listeners, I will also tell you that one of his other favorite daytime drinks was lemonade, we think, on the porch at the Robson House. And of course, this is during Prohibition, so who knows what else might have been added.
Well, surely it would not have an alcohol in it because
Oh, no, of course
that
not.
was forbidden.
Oh, yes, definitely.
All right. So we talked a little bit about it, but so where is Hunt's? So Del Webb built Hunt's tomb, but where is it located?
Oh, we already told that.
I know, Papago Park.
Yeah.
But Del Webb had quite a career building all kinds of things.
Well, yes, there are not that many people to say that are, in the 20th century could say that they had built pyramids.
Indeed. Or a J-wing of the Westward Ho.
Yes.
Or Las Vegas, but that's a whole other story.
That's definitely another story.
That is indeed the Nevada show. All right. So question 9. Who did Thomas Campbell lose to in the 1922 election?
Believe it or not, it was George W.P. Hunt. So just kind of as the rest of that story, so Hunt and Campbell were really simultaneously governors. I don't know how that really managed to work. In 1917, Hunt is appointed by the state Supreme Court. So he serves through 1918. However, one of the things about this election was, and probably why he lost initially, is because he had burned a lot of bridges and made a lot of enemies in his party. And so when they came up to have candidate to run in the 1918 election, Hunt was not on the ballot. And Campbell won the 1918 election. He also won the 1920 election, and then he ran again in 1922, and Hunt, back from wherever, resurrecting his career and playing nice, he won.
Wow.
Yes, it is kind of interesting. And, this particular article says recount of ballots in disputed precincts. That was actually from the 1916 election. But they even brought in many of the ballots from the surrounding counties. But Maricopa County was the most suspect county because we had the most number of people and therefore the most number of votes. And in that election, they kept those types of ballots. You could actually put an X and you're going to say, I'm going to vote down ballot, all Democrats, and you didn't have to pick all the individual parties. And you could do the same for the Republicans. In that 1916 election, there were a lot of blanks for governor, and that Democrats voted for everyone else in their party. So he just figured they must have meant to vote for him. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, indeed. I think we've been there recently.
I think so, yes.
or in the distant past, but
yes.
All right. And what was the first American book banned?
It was this New English Canaan, or New Canaan. The Puritans complained because it criticized how they were running things in New England. I just thought it was kind of weird. I mean, so we've been banning books for a long time.
Indeed, we have, and it's on the rise right now.
Yes, definitely.
So we just did our banned book reading just about a month ago over at the Alwyn House. So
Yes,
that's part of Banned Book Week. All right. So I always like to ask people how they did, just because it's like, not that it matters, but look at the great stories you have about elections, possible election fraud, maybe not. How many governors do we have at any one time?
choose the highest number so far.
I like that so far. So Donna, what new projects do you have? Do you have anything coming up?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the team that I worked with recently finished a draft to try and make the section of Grand Avenue from 5 points to 6 points to make it a historic district. It would, if that comes to fruition, I mean, the city is looking at it right now, so we're waiting for their comments. That will be the second commercial district after the one that came a couple of years ago on the Miracle Mile on McDowell. And I'm doing a big church survey from 1943 to 1980, all the churches in Phoenix.
Wow.
I know. I mean, just as a rough estimate, by 1980, there were over 500 churches listed in the yellow pages.
And then we just we're in the process of losing a church, aren't we?
Well, that one, yes, Mercy Hill has started the demolition on that. I'm not sure how far. We're keeping a close eye on it because they were supposed to save a portion of it. And in saving the portion, they are also supposed to reinforce it so it doesn't just accidentally fall down.
Oh.
Yes, things like that have happened in the past.
And there's just that neglect. People just leave a building and let it sit there until.
Well, yeah, that's another problem.
Right, that's a whole other issue.
Yes, that's another issue. Those are the two really big things that I can.
No, but that's cool. I mean, I'm looking so forward to that Grand Avenue once that becomes historic.
Yes, and it should be kind of cool. I mean, even the street. The street is listed as a contributing element to the nomination because it's, angular position in relation to everything else is
right.
What made it grand.
Yes, exactly. I mean, in a city of grid, it's the one street that's not on the grid.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I know myself. It took me a long time to figure out the numbering because, on a north-south road, the east side is odd and the west side is even numbers. And on an east-west, north-south, okay, on an east-west road, the north side is even and the south side is odd. Yeah. And I was always confused by the numbers on Grand Avenue because they think of it as an east-west road. And I was thinking of it as a north-south.
Ah, indeed.
Yes.
So even more reason to go out this weekend and celebrate Grand Avenue because it's hopefully going to become historic.
Yes, definitely. And there's a lot of cool stuff there. Besides Mel's Diner and
Indeed. But some of those buildings are great. I know we're not doing tours along it this year. Maybe next year we'll be able to go back into doing some of the tours of going inside some of those buildings.
Yes. Oh, and we nominated signs, freestanding signs,
Oh,
because some of them are historic, or at least parts of them are historic. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things one can do in their nomination. So,
very good.
so I mean, if you want to see something crazy, there's a sign that's right by La Luz del Mundo, and it actually, and it's on the Grand Avenue side. It's actually part of the original sign for the last hotel that was built on that section of Grand Avenue in 1966.
Oh,
I know. I mean, the only reason why we know what it looks like and what the sign looked like is because there's a postcard.
ah. But I love the fact like the Egyptian has gone back to the original sign, the original name, and
Yes,
done a really good job of kind of bringing it back to that mid-century vibe.
yes, yes. It's a nice, I think, an interesting place to have a staycation.
And they do a lot. I mean, they've got the outdoor stage, and so I'm sure they're going to take full advantage of that now the weather's cooling down
Mm-hmm.
to do from movies to bands and everything else. So that will be a lot of fun.
I think so.
And then there's always Bragg's Pie Factory with so many cool little shops in it.
Yes. And let me see what else. Oh, well, there's the brewery.
Oh, right. Oh, speaking of that, I should have a sip of my cocktail.
Yeah, you have some. And oh, well, then there's 6 Points Hardware that has been there since 1946. And
Indeed.
owned in the same family.
Oh, I didn't realize it was the same family.
Yes, same family the whole time.
Oh, that's really cool. They've owned it that long.
Yes.
Wow, and they haven't passed it on to anyone else.
Well, I mean, next generations, but yes.
Yeah. Well, but they keep wanting it as opposed to so many restaurants and things closed down because the next generation doesn't want to do it.
Right. No, they're very excited about it. And I think they're going to try and bring it back to what it looked like in its original day. And then they're also, working on the Kebido or paper heart. And so that's moving along.
I know. So I hear they're going to go back to the glass fronts, the big glass windows.
Yes. I think that's
So really taking it back to what it looked like.
Yes. That at least we have a lot of pictures of too.
Yes, there are tons of photos of that.
But that has an interesting history because Kebido, he gambled, I would say, in a bit because he had first been on Washington and then he had been on several places on Van Buren. And he just kept expanding and expanding. And he bought this land. So he bought it on both sides of the street, not both sides of Grand, but the street north of him. And so his service units were on the north side, and then he had this showroom. And although he didn't stay there that long, there were two other prominent Chevrolet dealers that purchased that and decided that that was really good. But once all the freeway system went in and the type of traffic changed, it wasn't as marketable for people to come and buy new cars. They moved up to Camelback.
Well, that's really reminiscent of, you have like the Soto and all those great buildings.
Right. Well, yeah, they had there was kind of car row on Central and, and there was car row a little bit on Van Buren, a little bit on Washington. Things changed and they changed pretty rapidly.
So that's why you should get out to Grand Avenue, go take a look at it now and see how they're coming. I mean, I know they're going to be painting murals on the old paper heart as it gets ready for kind of its new lease on life.
Yes, definitely.
And so that's going to be quite exciting. So Donna, thank you so much for coming on and kind of sharing your passion.
Oh, you're welcome.
I mean, and showing us how, you know, politics have always been kind of wonky.
Well, my favorite thing is if I get together with my family is to say, can your state top this? And then find something crazy that has happened. You know, it could be in this old election, but even more, more recent. Most of them can't.
See, Arizona's still at the top. Yay.
Yes. Yeah, we're still at the top here.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your night, Donna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, Donna, thank you so much. That was great for, you know, a little bit of comedy, as you know, because, and I mean, I know there's a bond election coming up. So, you know, if you have your ballot or if you need to, go vote, because those are important. Whether you say yes or no, it doesn't matter, but get your name out there. And just also remember, as we get ready to go into next year, your voice is important. So this is why I always like to say, you know, if you're watching on Facebook, this is why you need to share, because we are having so much fun with Arizona history and pointing things out that Arizona is still kind of wonky in the headlines. All right. So now from the vault is something people may not know about. And we talked a little bit about pyramids. Well, this is down near Florence, and it is for Charles Poston. So Charles Poston is known as the father of Arizona because in the mid 1860s, he successfully argued and lobbied and made sure Arizona territory was created. And so this temple was built for him, but when he first passed away, he actually was buried in the pauper cemetery. And then people realized that that was not becoming of someone who was considered to be the father of Arizona. So they got together and built this down near Florence. You can still go visit it. It said he was a Zoroaster, which is kind of a sun worshiping, or he may have just had an interest. It's not quite clear, but go visit this at what is now Poston Butte, named just for him. All right. So next week, I'm excited because we have Kristen Atwell Ford, who is a local filmmaker and has done some really cool things. So she is going to be our guest next week. So be sure to join us on next Thursday, November 9th at 7 o'clock for another round of Arizona History Happy Hour. And please remember, if you have any questions, stories, suggestions, I love to hear from you all, because sometimes you all have better ideas than I do about what's going on. I also love to give a shout out to Chris and Cole for that intro video, and also PJ for keeping me lubricated and knowledgeable about Arizona history and kind of what's going on in our booze category. All right, everybody. Well, as we get ready to say goodnight, I'm going to throw out a video we did last month for Grand Avenue Festival. So that way, hopefully you'll remember to be there, because it's going to be lots of fun.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Grand Avenue. My name's Taylor. I'm meeting with Marshall Shore, the hip historian. Let's check it out. Hey. How are we doing?
Good. Come on over.
All right, sweet. What's going on here?
Oh my gosh, so excited, because we are talking about Grand Avenue Fest on November 4th.
What's going on November 4th?
Oh my gosh, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning, It's going to be a celebration of the arts, of music, of food, of local businesses, all right here on Grand, from Roosevelt to Van Buren. So much fun
This
happening.
sounds so exciting. Tell me more.
It's a family fun, free event.
Everybody loves free.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be going on from Roosevelt to Van Buren, all along Grand, a celebration of arts, community, local shops,
Bringing everyone
music,
together.
artists. I mean, there's going to be so much live stuff going on. It's going to be so much fun. Food trucks, art cars, glass blowing. Pretty much you name it, it's going to be here.
Okay,
So
awesome.
many performers going on, and oh, looky here.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be so much fun. You got to be there.
I will.
Here we are on Grand Avenue in downtown Phoenix. We're on November 4th. We are going to be doing Grand Avenue Festival.
This is so exciting. I hope everyone comes out. It's a free family fun event. I'm going to be there. I hope you are too.
11 a.m. after parties. It's going to be the day that goes and goes and goes.